Good evening, everyone. Joining us right now at 8:05. Appreciate you tuning in to this edition of Wave Extra live in our Wave Extra studio. I'm your anchor, Jose Sosaya. Appreciate you, as always, joining us through your Wave Now app on your smart device, on your TV or tablet at home, and of course on all the different social media platforms. You can connect with us, of course. Love to see your comments, whatever you're thinking of, and stories that you and we are following at the same time. I'm going to start tonight with some images of what could turn to be a breaking story and a developing story. We do have a crew out there checking on what else LMPD might be finding out, but we're being told it could be a potential shooting. So we're going to send you, or actually, I'm going to show you all the video that our crew member, our photojournalist Ian, was able to grab for us at this particular time. And so this was taken a little bit earlier this afternoon. What you're looking at is an investigation active going on right now. It's at the 500 block of Marshall Street. Over our scanners, we're told that LMPD got the call in around 7 this evening. So just over an hour ago, we're told there is at least one victim. We're not sure about their condition. But as far as the location, and you're seeing our photojournalists there moving to get a better angle, but you can see all the different and the number of LMPD cars there, officers to assist in the investigation, walking past the police tape, just for geographic location to get a better sense of where you are. I was going to pull up the Google Maps and we can zoom in. And so where it references around the 500 block of Marshall Street would fall right in between Liberty Street and Muhammad Ali Boulevard. So it could be anywhere within these two blocks. So you know this is Dosker Manor, if you're familiar with downtown or any of the smaller buildings that are just off to the side here in this general area. So I'll show you again our footage from our photographer out there on the scene. Again, an active police investigation. LMPD, of course, we've reached out for some more details, and we're going to keep the crew out there to see if they can share any updates to the investigation as this plays out. Make sure to stay with us, of course, on all of our different platforms on your smartphone, and you tune into Wave News at 11 tonight. We'll make sure to get you the latest updates as well. All right, coming back here into the studio, perhaps the biggest story of the day, one we've dedicated a lot of resources to, and you'll understand why as we continue to dig into this through the night, late into the night, is visually the most startling thing we've seen. And we're going to show you the videos if you haven't seen these different angles of when the semi-truck already on fire, apparently, eventually just fell over the bridge as it was coming down on I-65 near the Kennedy Bridge. So let's show you these angles from one of our drones. Yeah. What was a fiery crash, it was a tractor trailer that plunged off of I-65 onto that ramp you see below, just off of the Kennedy Bridge. The driver apparently jumped to safety. So that's good to know that he had been able to jump to safety. And we did send a reporter out there to the scene. Firefighters you see there had responded rather quickly. And so what we're going to show you now is more viewer pictures. We appreciate them sending those to us. Thick black smoke. You could see it rising just after 10 this morning. And the flames, of course, just so concentrated inside, which you'd think would potentially be a deadly situation. But you could see this is the vantage point from this viewer and a photographer who was able to take that as they were able to come through. Smoke and flames pouring out of that semi after it crashed. It was dangling there briefly over the edge of 65 South. And the driver, when they jumped out of the cab and fell 20 feet below, minor injuries. They were not seriously hurt before managing to just get out of the way. And that eventually is when the truck completely crashed. Here's another image of, you could see just more of the aftermath and several Louisville fire trucks and crews already there putting the smoke away, just trying to contain the emergency as much as possible. And the driver apparently told us, and we were able to see when the truck went completely over, crashed onto the ramp below. Louisville fire leaders telling us that decision could have been a lifesaver.
That's the biggest thing here, that person is alive. We were able to get on scene quickly, extinguish the fire. We had mutual aid from Jeffersonville Fire Department, EMS, LMPD. Everybody was on scene very quickly, and we were able to handle the situation.
And about an hour after it happened, a tow truck was on scene to haul away all the wreckage. State inspectors were told we're also there looking for any potential damage done to the ramp, not just where the truck slid and probably, scraped up, but then eventually the ramp where it fell. One of the first lanes to reopen was I-65 South, allowing traffic from southern Indiana to start rolling back across the river. And we've been seeing various stages of that clearing of all the debris. But you could see just the traffic nightmare it also eventually caused, for people waiting and not sure what was going to happen. Eventually, try to move through. Was everyone going to be okay? But thankfully, fire crews, volunteers were able to manage and assess the situation as best as they could. What I want to show you here is some dash cam video. So, thanks to our viewer Robert, this is a further view of the smoke billowing, and you have downtown appearing right there on the right side of your screen. You're just seeing how far the wind's taking it and stretching. The flames still, being fanned, of course. No one putting that out right now. And you see how perhaps, this driver, Robert, turning the dash cam on, trying to take things slow to see, how much of that angle they could get. It probably is a scary sight to see as you're going to be the one coming into the exit there, and you're going under that bridge. So you feel like you're in the ramp. Take a look at that. Amazing, startling images. So we appreciate Robert sending that to us this evening. And so again, a reminder, the driver did make it out. If there was any treatment, it was for minor injuries. So we're grateful to hear that that was the case. Now, for those of you who've lived here, even if you haven't lived in Louisville and Kentucky for a long time, it's not the first time we have seen a semi crash at this part of the Kennedy interchange, and it might be frustrating for a lot. If you remember, in early May, there were 3 other crashes, including one that left a driver hanging off of that overpass, talking to a 911 dispatch responder and praying that they would make it out okay. Well, Wave troubleshooter Mark Stevens, he's been asking whether there might be an inherent design flaw in all this.
While drivers are warned that downtown exit ramp is an exit only, it does lead back to southbound 65 if a driver takes the exit by mistake. But a Wave photographer has observed multiple vehicles swerving out of the lane at the last second to stay on the main part of 65 at the interchange. This area was redesigned and rebuilt during the Ohio River Bridges project. The design firm created this video showing how it was changing the curves and widths of the ramps, letting drivers onto 64 and 71 from the bridge. What had before been a race to get in the correct lane is now more forgiving. KYTC has conducted a number of studies to figure out how to replace the rest of the bridges along 65 from the Kennedy interchange to the Watterson, but they don't study the current interchange design. I did find one common factor in all these crashes, though. State police data says the roads were wet from rain for each crash. Design may be a factor, but weather also can play a role.
All right, thanks to Mark Stevens for looking into that. Of course, the crash is still under investigation. Now, the mayor's office telling us the transportation cabinet plans to add what they call an epoxy surface to that area. They're also planning on replacing some of those lane markings on the pavement on that bridge. But again, it seems to be a trouble spot. It seems in these cases, particularly for bigger vehicles, these semi trucks and tractor trailers, but perhaps even for smaller cars as they're trying to maneuver that particular part of the interchange and having to decide where they need to go, rain or no rain. But if you were driving out early afternoon today across town, you saw that downpour created kind of dangerous conditions. When the rain is that hard, it's really hard to move around and do so safely. So we'll see how this all plays out. So coming up after this quick break, we're going to bring in a reporter who's checking in on the latest in the investigation and offering a pretty interesting perspective as we take a deeper look at the consequences and just how this affects everyone driving in and out of these very busy interstates here in Louisville and around Kentuckiana. So we're going to take a quick break and we'll be right back with Wave Extra. All right, everyone, welcome back. 8:16 on this edition of Wave Extra. Happy to be joined by our reporter, Alina Noakes. Alina, again, joining us for the night. And of course, you can catch her at Wave News at 11. The reason Alina is working as hard as she is right now, Alina. So, of course, the visuals of what happened out there, scary sight to see if you were driving around and you saw that semi dangling after, not only it caught fire, but it was about to dangle and eventually fall over that part of the bridge. But you've been working to talk to some folks, whose job day in and day out, they feel like this would put them in a really bad spot. It could have been them, for better or worse, having to maneuver a truck in a pretty busy part of downtown. So just talk to us a little bit about who you've been talking to and what you wanted to figure out.
Yeah, I wanted to talk to some truck drivers. Obviously, truck driver in this case is who ended up being in this position. As we've seen many times before, these semis are the ones that end up in these positions. And I wanted to kind of get their perspective about I-65, specifically this part of the Spaghetti Junction. Why does this keep happening? Is there something that's, keeping these things continuing with big rigs specifically? We see crashes along I-65, along I-265 all the time. I feel like every single day there's some hit in one of our shows about a crash that's happened. But in this case, for an 18-wheeler to be dangling off the edge of the interstate multiple times now within a very short period of time. What is the problem here? I know Mark Stevens pointed out in his investigation that, weather or rain has seemingly always been a factor in the crashes themselves, and in the fact that, it seems that every single time when it's happened, there has been rain.
And no point in not, denying that if you were driving around town, maybe, for those of us who were coming into work a little earlier, you happened to catch that downpour, but the rain was already around and could have been a nuisance for drivers at that point of the morning.
And it always is. Rain, weather in general, always has some plays a factor in something like road conditions and safety on the roadway. And it's yet to be determined really on all these crashes. Did weather actually play a part in any of them? So you got to imagine when you're going a certain speed on the interstate, surrounded by other cars on sharp turns, slick roads don't exactly help matters. And I want to talk then about the road conditions. So in talking to truck drivers, who you're going to hear tonight is from CDL school that's located in Shepherdsville. They actually train 18-wheeler big semi truck drivers to do the job. And that involves, all things safety in terms of knowing everything about your truck, how to go about moving your truck, how to drive some of these roads, no matter, if they're the interstate, if they're just, normal roadways, in slower parts of town, things like that. And I wanted to kind of get their idea of, well, what are you telling your truck drivers when it comes to Louisville Road specifically, especially now that these things have happened, and that they are can put themselves in the same position at some point as well to have this happen if they're not careful.
Sure.
So I'm talking to a CDL instructor who's been a longtime truck driver herself, and she gives some perspective from just kind of she's ahead to our coverage. She says Louisville's not immune to this problem, and it's a problem not just in Louisville, but around the nation. Every state has a Spaghetti Junction, has a problem intersection, has a ramp that's an issue. And that's expected, but it's knowing what to do in those situations. And it's Louisville specifically what maybe worsens it. And in this case, she's pointing to the road conditions we see. I know you're playing that video there that we got from a viewer.
Credit to Robert as well.
Yes.
I've been wanting to replay it for just folks who have not seen it yet, or of course we'll play that for you tonight when Alina is part of the coverage as we dig into this. But imagine, you're the driver in this with this dash cam, and you're coming up, and you're the ramp or the surface that's the underpass to where that semi is now dangling on fire, and you're just waiting for it to eventually collapse.
Yeah, I mean, you just don't know what to do in this situation. And my understanding is from talking, I actually talked to Robert, and he said they got there seemingly before any emergency personnel could really arrive. So they're kind of figuring out, well, what do we do? We've got traffic backed up behind us. Do we go around slowly? Do we stop completely? And you're on the interstate. It's a terrible position to find yourself in. But in talking about kind of the safety mechanisms there, you also have to account for, we could see in that video, the rumble strips on the side, and
Mhm.
and that's an issue. Like, is that up on the interstate as well in every part that it needs to be?
Yeah.
Is that a certain precaution that actually helps alleviate these issues, or is there some other factor that needs to be involved as well? And I'll just tell you, we hear all things about the roads themselves. Everybody complains about those potholes on the roads. The interstate is not immune to that, and that has become a really big issue, as we've seen before on places like Hospital Curve right there on 65 as well, where they've patched up massive craters
Absolutely.
in the interstate just recently. And so that's been a big factor for these truck drivers, especially going around these sharp turns, hauling these big loads, going speeds that, frankly, truck drivers say that they really don't want to have to go around. And then we add to that, sometimes it can be a factor of the age of the driver, how much experience they have, things like that.
Lisa perhaps mentioning, and it's, you can factor it all. There are erratic drivers. It's perhaps, someone who maybe knows. You could have people who take the certain route to go to and from work every day. Maybe you have visitors, and then sometimes they just miss an exit, or they're not exactly sure when to
Sure.
have that turn. A trucker can only move their vehicle so much. They're just having to play defense a little
Yeah.
more so.
I mean, we're talking about distracted driving
Yeah.
drivers, people who are not big rig drivers. I mean, I think it's one of those things, we don't know who's at fault
Mhm.
in many of these crashes. In fact, it's not been something we've really been able to figure out just yet. We're trying to work to learn that information itself. But, distracted drivers on the road, the exits, that a complaint is that they're not always clearly marked, or that people don't really recognize it until the last second. But they are pretty clearly marked. It's just, are you paying attention? And that's something that truck drivers I've heard complaints
Yeah.
about, is that other drivers are not. And then the next thing they know, they get cut off by somebody veering over into their lane
Mhm.
last second. Not to mention, of course, the speed issue. Trucks can't stop on a dime. And they're not expected to, and you need to be fully cognizant of that if you're a driver who's not driving
Yeah.
a big rig.
If you
So
remember physics class, where it's just like for the mass and the weight required to move at that speed, it's going to require, greater force to decrease that speed the
Mhm.
way you want it to. Again, for the physics teachers, and I'm butchering this, but I'm just saying it feels like we see that play out every day we're out driving. If you have a lighter car, it can generate and decrease speed when you break the pad super quick.
Mhm.
That those trucks are massive, and you don't know what they're carrying too. Whatever was in his
you
trailer,
don't, which is
actually.
always the
So,
danger here too. Obviously, Louisville being a big city with
Yeah.
a lot of industry, you just never really know what a big rig is going to be carrying. And so these are always factors to keep in mind that create some danger there, and create dangers not just for the people on the road who are, just driving to and from work in a four-door sedan, but also in a big rig just trying
Yeah.
to move product across the country. Not to mention under the crunch of the hours that they're required, that they're expected to be on the road. Deadlines. It's just a culmination of factors. And in this case, add to that a dangerous section of Louisville that has clearly proved itself to be one that needs to be addressed. And I think everybody can agree to some extent how we address that. We're still trying to learn and see what solutions might be brought up. But I think some suggestions what I'll bring up tonight is just things that truck drivers are noticing. Is this a city? Are the roadways that we have built for distinguishing regular vehicle traffic versus truck traffic,
commercial traffic.
And what dangers are there when they're not, when things are just expected that everybody goes the same rate of speed, everybody does the exact same thing. Is this working towards our success or not? And does that play a factor in Spaghetti Junction? So tune in tonight at 11 to listen to a truck driver talk about this exact issue and her perspective on this.
I will be looking forward to it. It's vital perspective, hopefully, for those who can make the changes needed, whatever those changes are, to kind of create those safety buffers. Be worthwhile to sit down and see and hear what they have to say. And hopefully, if the end game is to make this part of road that we all use every day safer, I think everyone can get on board with that. So
yeah, at least hopefully you hear a perspective from a truck driver. And if you're someone who is going 15 over in that section of Spaghetti Junction, maybe I do need to slow down. Maybe these big rigs that are going 10 under, they're doing it for a reason. So things like that, just to keep in mind, at least for drivers to be cognizant of, as well as what improvements we are hopefully going to have in this area, what would those look like, and what
Okay.
factors might play a key role there.
We're going to look forward to it. Don't make sure to not miss Alina when she has her report again tonight. Wave News at 11. We're going to start the top of the hour with that. Appreciate Alina's time. We'll be looking forward, of course, to whatever everything you've touched on and the people you've met to add this perspective. So thank you, Alina. So we're going to take a quick commercial break. Be right back to wrap up this segment of Wave Extra. All right, folks, thanks for sticking with us. 8:29 officially. Jose Sosaya here at the Wave Now desk. I want to show you a video. I would say a lot of parents might remember doing, this among their friends of a certain age group at some point in the past. Just a heads up, though, from Vine Grove leaders. Right now, they're warning kids. There are some dangers embedded into participating in the Ding Dong Ditch Prac. The reason they're bringing this up as a story is they've shared some doorbell camera video, and just wanted to share that with you as far as what's happened recently. It actually came from City Hall. So we're going to play that. Perhaps you've seen this being shared around your particular social platform. It was released earlier this week. City Hall at Vine Grove saying it shows several young people walking through this neighborhood early in the morning. They're out ringing doorbells and then running away. Again, what feels like, culturally speaking, is classically the Ding Dong Ditch prank. But neighbors have been letting city leaders know it's startling them, at least here. And the city says, on one hand, it can be dangerous for homeowners and even those participating in the prank. You're not sure how people might react. And so to that point, Vine Grove police or city leaders say police are going to be monitoring the areas where this has been happening. So just a heads up, if you've heard or know of the stuff happening, that now leaders and police will be coming by certain parts of Vine Grove to see who else is partaking in the latest round of Ding Dong Ditch. And as we're not on air, as we're streaming to you live right now, I should say, perhaps you Cards fans, you're too busy paying attention to the action that's playing on ESPN right now. What I want to play is some preview video. It'll get you excited, of course, as the Cardinals, on one hand, are out playing game one of this double elimination round for the College World Series. So let's show you some of that practice video from them. Challenge, though, for the Cards. They're taking on an Oregon State program right now. Oregon State's won 3 national championships, the most recent one in 18. So in recent history, a team that is a national seed beating out Florida State in the Super Regionals to get here. But the Cards have caught on fire at the right time, taking down, again, you remember their run so far, taking down top seed in the country, Vandy, on their home field in Nashville, defeating Miami here at home to get back to Omaha for the first time since 2019. And so you want to hear members of the Cards team discussing this magical run.
Kind of just a different group. I don't really know what specifically it was, but there's kind of just a different feel. And then once the season rolled around, you kind of saw us, had a few walk-off wins. The group never really gave up at all. So I think that just kind of shows what kind of group we are and how competitive we are.
We had guys stepping up all the time, just having guys that, can, just back people up, step up when we need them. That's just really huge for us.
All right, so here and there from team leaders in Eddie King Jr. and Patrick Forbes. By the way, Patrick Forbes toeing the rubber to start. He was going to start tonight, as it did start at 7 o'clock our time, 6 Central. Seeing if we could get some action to check on the scores.
I don't really know.
There we go, replaying Patrick and Eddie.
Kind of just a different feel. And then once the season
So we're going to
rolled
play
around,
some
you kind of
extra
saw us.
video for you right now because we don't want to forget another Kentucky team that's made it out to Omaha. Kudos to Murray State making it out of the Oxford Regional and the Durham Super Regionals just to get here. Murray State, though, they've proven they can outslug you and can get enough pitching to eke out their wins. It's been about offense and just enough pitching and defense to keep a lead. The question many people will ask from here on out is, where in the world did this group of guys out of the Missouri Valley Conference come from? All you have to do is ask newly named National Coach of the Year, Dan Skirka.
We're going to try, and we can promise them that. So when people know that and they can tell a kid that after he's been somewhere else and they gave up on him or didn't pour into him like we do, I think that's when we have success. They come to Murray and they're open, they're hungry, they're eager. These kids want to learn, they want to be pushed.
So kudos there again to Murray State. We're going to see how their run will play out for their game coming up. Here's a quick update for Cards fans. It is the end of the 5th inning and, still some time to make up the runs, but you see Oregon State providing that offense to give them the lead. They are up 2-0. Again, end of the 5th. Whenever the game wraps up, we'll, of course, have those highlights. Dusty Baker breaking down the big plays and the big contributions and what to perhaps improve heading into the next game. Again, reminder, it is a double elimination round for this part of the College World Series. All right, that's going to do it for us in this segment of Wave Extra. Always appreciate you joining us again through our Wave Now platform on your favorite TV, your smart TV, or your tablet device, connecting with all of our social platforms, Facebook, X, Twitch, YouTube. Always reach out. Let us know, the things that you're following as we provide this little in-depth extra coverage. If you're joining us on this platform, always love to connect with you about, the stories that matter most to you. So that is going to do it for us. Appreciate you joining us on this Friday night. We will see you next week.